Millions of Americans began Tuesday, September 11, 2001, exactly as they had countless other mornings. People went to work, bought their coffee, and boarded commercial flights under clear skies, unaware of the impending shift in history. Overseas, however, the threat was already active. Throughout the 1990s, extremist factions linked to Al-Qaeda were actively targeting American military and civilian assets abroad. Evidence that domestic targets were vulnerable appeared as early as 1993, when a truck bomb detonated in the parking garage beneath the World Trade Center. The aggression escalated. In 2000, suicide bombers attacked the USS Cole in a Yemeni port, proving a coordinated network could strike heavily armored military vessels. Despite overseas strikes and earlier domestic warnings, daily life in the United States continued largely uninterrupted. Most Americans and domestic institutions operated under a sense of insulation from global terrorism. This perceived safety extended to commercial air travel. Airport security checkpoints focused primarily on firearms and explosives. Passengers passed through minimal screening, small blades were permitted, and cockpit doors were not reinforced. Standard aviation protocols at the time assumed hijackers wanted hostages or ransom. Consequently, flight crews were trained to comply and negotiate, rather than defend against suicide missions. On the intelligence front, agencies like the FBI and CIA gathered information on specific threats, but data remained siloed. This compartmentalization prevented investigators from cross-referencing intelligence to expose the plot. Consequently, officials missed internal warnings suggesting commercial planes could be weaponized against domestic targets. The success of the 9/11 attacks relied on exploiting these specific fractures in the national security apparatus, gaps Al-Qaeda had identified and systematically targeted. At 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 crashed directly into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Initially, onlookers and early news reports struggled to make sense of the damage. Many assumed a small commuter plane had gone off course, treating the impact as a tragic, isolated accident. 17 minutes later, United Airlines Flight 175 struck the South Tower, an impact broadcast live to a global audience. The second impact ended any speculation of an accident. It was now clear that a coordinated attack was underway on American soil. Lower Manhattan descended into chaos. Debris and ash filled the streets as thousands of civilians evacuated, while hundreds of firefighters and police officers rushed toward the burning towers. At 9:37 a.m., the crisis reached the nation's capital when a third hijacked plane crashed into the western side of the Pentagon. In the span of just 51 minutes, the baseline assumption of domestic security in the United States was permanently erased. Aboard United Flight 93, passengers and crew began receiving mid-air phone calls from family members, learning the truth about the earlier suicide attacks in New York. Realizing that their plane was also being used as a weapon, several passengers fought back to retake the cockpit. Their resistance forced the plane into an empty field in rural Pennsylvania at 10:03 a.m., saving a target in Washington, D.C. Back in New York, the structural damage to the towers became terminal. At 9:59 a.m., the South Tower collapsed. The North Tower fell 29 minutes later. By the end of the morning, nearly 3,000 lives had been lost. The physical devastation left a massive scar on the city and an immeasurable emotional toll on the surviving first responders and civilians who navigated the debris. When the institutional protocols and defense systems failed, the courage of everyday citizens and rescue workers became the country's final line of defense. As the immediate danger subsided, the Federal Aviation Administration issued a directive never seen before. Every civilian commercial flight was ordered to ground immediately, clearing American airspace of all non-military traffic. That evening, President George W. Bush addressed the nation from the Oval Office, promising that the United States would pursue those responsible. Across the country, thousands of volunteers traveled to Ground Zero to assist with recovery efforts, while blood donation centers were overwhelmed by citizens waiting to help. This immediate response rapidly transitioned the country from a state of paralyzing shock into a highly mobilized, unified front. To resume air travel, the federal government overhauled the travel norms of the 1990s. The newly created Transportation Security Administration introduced strict passenger screening, hardened cockpit doors became mandatory, and biometric scanning was normalized. Militarily, the attacks triggered extensive overseas campaigns. the United States shifted its military strategy toward the war on terror, initiating long-term operations in Afghanistan and Iraq. Intelligence agencies also radically expanded their reach. Legislation like the Patriot Act granted the government new authority to monitor global communications and intercept data in an effort to identify threats. In the effort to prevent another catastrophe, global governments replaced the civil leniencies of the late 20th century with an era defined by intensive security and constant surveillance. Today, an entire generation has reached adulthood with no personal memory of the world before 2001, living entirely within the cultural and geopolitical structures shaped by that single morning. At the site of the attacks, the cascading pools of the 9/11 memorial serve as a quiet reminder of the individuals who lost their lives. While the day is defined by destruction, its enduring legacy is the resilience of the people who worked together to rebuild a changed world.